I got married to my wife after we dated for 1 year. Looking back now, I know I should have dated her for much longer before committing to marriage. We were married for 3 years, when I decided to surprise my wife at work with flowers and a takeout lunch from her favorite restaurant. When I got there, I told the receptionist, Kelly, who I was there to see. It was the first time I ever visited my wife at work, so none of her coworkers knew what I looked like until now. Kelly was stunned speechless. It took her so long to respond that I wondered if I had something on my face. She finally told me that my wife stepped out for lunch already, but she would be back any minute now. I took a seat in the lobby right by the entrance to the building. Kelly started texting like a madwoman on her phone. I noticed a few women peeking their heads around the reception desk, casually walking by and looking at me, or creating a whisper-level conversation with Kelly. Maybe they were envious. I was bringing my wife flowers and good food. I felt like a pretty good man until I saw my wife come strolling through the entrance, walking hand in hand with another man. As soon as she saw me, she dropped his hand and distanced herself. She looked really upset. She walked up to me very quickly as I slowly stood up. She asked me what I was doing here. I stammered, looking around at the 5 women and 1 man that were staring at us. It was actually Kelly that spoke up first. She asked me, "So you're her husband?" My wife covered her mouth. She was realizing how bad this was. "Yes, I am," I said. The man walked out. My wife followed him. I tried to follow her, but Kelly and some other women stopped me. They said my wife had introduced them to that man 8 months ago, claiming he was her fiancé. You can imagine how alarming that news was. I gave the lunch and flowers to Kelly along with my phone number and walked outside to find my cheating wife. She was telling the man that she would leave me for him. So he didn't need to doubt the feelings she had for him. I chimed in and told them that wouldn't be necessary. I would file for divorce and put all her stuff outside for them to pick. My wife freaked out and told me not to put her stuff outside. She had really high-quality brand name items. She didn't want to get dirty or broken. I was speechless at her inconsideration towards me, and I wondered how I could possibly thought everything was okay between us. I got in my car and left, leaving her standing with the man in the parking lot. She'd better hurry to get her stuff, or it would get ruined. As soon as I got home, I started throwing her stuff out the second-story window. I called my mom, and she came over as fast as she could. She started helping me throw stuff out, telling me that this wasn't the end so much as it was a beautiful and exciting beginning. She had a way with words. My wife finally arrived at my house the next day with her not-so-secret man. He drove a pickup truck, and it was clear that my wife had way too much crap to fit in it. I could see the worry in his eyes. I think that until all this happened, he was under the impression that my wife was a simple single woman without so much crap. "She comes with baggage, buddy." They started loading up his truck, but my wife quit after she broke a nail and just watched him load the truck. My mom and I tried to focus on cleaning up the house inside. I already changed the locks and my wife was pissed off when she tried using her house key. She decided to damage my front porch as some kind of revenge on me. The joke was on her because my Ring camera caught it. At the same time, I filed for divorce. I turned in the camera footage to the police. She was charged with disorderly conduct, and it didn't take long for her employers to find out about it. They were extremely disappointed and fired her because I assume they didn't want someone like that to represent their company. 1 week after she was fired, her AP broke up with her. I guess it just took him a little while to realize she wasn't worth keeping. She called me sobbing while he was throwing her stuff out, saying she didn't have anywhere to go and didn't know what to do. I told her it was none of my concern and that she should just sleep in her car. I was so relieved that I didn't let her affair get to me too much. I just kept moving forward and sought out the support and help I needed to get through it. Wow, OP, your wife was extremely inconsiderate and egotistical. She continued an affair behind your back for a very long time, even going so far as to introduce him to her coworkers as her fiancé. She was obviously prepared to leave you for him, but she should have known it wouldn't turn out as great as she expected. It's extremely hard for a relationship to blossom if it doesn't have trust and communication. She didn't have trust or communication with you or her AP. It's so perfect that she ended up camping in the woods. What karma could have made more sense? She was so materialistic and shallow. It led her to the dirt. I wish you nothing but the best of luck in life, OP. Now for today's second story. My wife 30 of 4 years told me 32. She had to go on a business trip 5 hours away that included one overnight stay. She'd never had to do this before, but she was only at this job for 9 months at the time. She told me they were so pleased with her work that they chose her to be the one to go. She would be paid to do this, and it was like a nice little getaway. Since I didn't express my enthusiasm, she added that she needed time alone to do some soul searching. That was an odd comment. I asked her how she expected to do any soul searching while on a 2-day business trip. She just rolled her eyes and said I was being too technical. On the day of her departure, I thought about how weird it was that she said she needed a long time. My wife didn't like to be alone normally, and this town was so far away. I told my friend what was going on, and he convinced me that we should follow her. At first, my wife hesitated to tell me her hotel room number. She gave some lame excuse, but I told her it was just for safety purposes, and there was no way I was going to drive 5 hours to come see her on a one-night stay. It was so funny. My friend was convinced we were going to find her in bed with someone, but I was skeptical. Of course, I couldn't think that about my wife. She wouldn't mind like that, would she? We got there around 10 p.m., way after my wife got there, worked and settled down. She texted me good night, but even that was odd. My wife usually stayed up pretty late. We went up the elevator and stood in front of her room door. Our plan was that if someone else opened the door, we were gonna barge in before determining if we had the wrong room or not. Because we had to prove my wife was in the room with someone before the door was shut on us. I seriously wouldn't have been this ballsy if it wasn't for my friend. He encouraged me to be brave enough to discover the truth. Before he knocked, I could hear moaning, but I told myself it was coming from another room. A man opened the door, and we barged in while recording on our phones. My wife was lying on the bed naked, trying desperately to pull the tucked-in bedding loose to cover herself. When that failed, she jumped off to the side of the bed and ducked down low. She screamed, "For Christ's sake, I thought you were going to call me on the hotel room phone, not show up here." I had no idea what to say. I was in disbelief. My friend had a lot to say. He'd known her through me for these past 4 years. So he felt entitled to tell her what a sleazy, worthless thing she was for cheating on me. He pointed the camera at the guy, and he covered his face, grabbed his stuff and ran down the hallway. It was like he wasn't supposed to be there and couldn't risk being discovered. My wife cried and tried to yell after him, but realized it was hopeless. She realized he didn't want to stay with her or defend her at all. She hugged her knees, crying, sitting naked on the floor in the corner of the hotel room, all being filmed. All I could think was that she deserved it. All recording. I asked her what the hell she was thinking. Who was that guy? She said she didn't want to tell me anything. She just wanted me to leave. My friend demanded answers on my behalf, telling her it was the least she could do to make up for some of my pain. She cried and said she didn't know what we wanted her to say. I told him we needed to leave. She wasn't going to say anything to make this better. On the way out, I told her she wasn't welcome to return home. She just screamed really loud in frustration. The ride home was pretty quiet. My friend apologized for what I was going through, but I told him it was thanks to him that I even knew my wife was cheating on me. We listened to some epic music and talked some more. He stayed with me in my house for a few weeks while I filed for divorce and put all my wife's stuff in the garage. I had a camera in the garage, so I didn't mind letting her type in the garage code to get her stuff. She arrived one day with a small moving truck. She was by herself while she loaded her stuff up. She didn't know about the camera I installed, so it recorded as she loaded some of the things I owned into her moving truck. These were expensive, and she probably just wanted to sell them. I called her and told her I just saw her steal my stuff from the garage, and she tried to play dumb. I told her to bring them back or they'd be held to petty. 3 days later, I arrived home and my things were sitting on the porch. 4 weeks later, she called me at 2 a.m., crying because she was filled with regret. She missed me and the life we built together. More importantly, she found out she was pregnant. I knew for sure it wasn't mine. We hadn't had sex for 2.5 months now. She was sleeping on the floor of her sister's apartment because her parents wouldn't let her live with them. I told her she did this to both of us, and it couldn't be fixed. I was not going to support her or the affair child. Her only choice was to keep moving forward and make better decisions from now on. She apologized to me one more time before hanging up. We haven't spoken for a long time now. I think she still lives with her sister. I started a little business and hobby with my friend, and it's really taken off. I have a passion for it, and it makes me money, so I'm very happy. My ex's sister tried asking me for some help with rent and baby expenses because somehow it was my fault the responsibility of my ex fell onto her. I guess that's an indication that my ex isn't in a hurry to get back to work. I just laughed at the request for money. I understand times are tough. But I refuse to help support that lying, cheating woman. OP, you had to endure a very traumatic experience. To drive all that way and discover your wife with another man is heartbreaking. She clearly was not considering the consequences of her actions or thought she could be sneaky enough to get away with it. Who could go online to their spouse for so long without feeling guilty and terrible? Selflessness and honor should be the ultimate goal in any relationship. Consider your partner's needs and wants above your own, and even if they fail to treat you the same way, don't become bitter or angry. I believe you made the right decision to divorce her, and you certainly don't need to help support anyone. It's better to start the healing process now. You can find a woman who is mature enough to respect and remain loyal to you. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care.